All right. So, you guys were supposed to write your test, your first test, in session 5, which is today. But because today landed up on a weekday, we are actually just going to go over, or rather, I'm going to give you guys a guide on what the test is going to be about, the things that you need to focus on. So the test has multiple sections, and I'm going to give you guys what those sections are so that you can just go and prepare, and then you'll be able to write the test confidently. But in addition to that, we are going to go through today's session, session 5, where we look at the start of writing an assignment. And in that start of writing an assignment, we are literally going to take it way, way back and start off by looking at sentences, and then from sentences to paragraphs, and then just look at, what makes a good paragraph and what makes a bad paragraph. What are the things that you need to look out for, and what are the things you need to do more of? So that is what we are going to be doing today. So when I was, before you guys came through, we were talking about how the assignment is going. So guys, how are you finding that activity, that assignment that I gave you, where you had to go and work on references on that counseling modalities assignment? How are you finding that task? So anyone can speak. Anybody who wants to go?
Mr. Matima. Well,
Yeah.
I will speak for my yes, I will speak for myself. I think in class on Saturday, I think the understanding was that Mr. Matima was going to send us the assignment afterwards, but I haven't received it. Now
Oh,
I'm
you
not
haven't
sure if
received it.
sorry.
I'm saying you haven't received the assignment.
I think so. I think so.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's actually a mistake. Because when I spoke to admin, I was assured that it would have been sent through, but it's not a train smash. Let me send you guys the document right now. So you will receive it on Zoom. Zoom has a chat section, and you can click on the document, and it will be downloaded directly onto your phone. So let me just look for, because there are a couple of documents that you need. All right. Okay, so that is the first one. So there is the Harvard document. So this one here, it's coming through to you
Wait,
guys.
assessment. Oh, okay.
Have you seen it? The assessment.
Yeah, I'm seeing something on the WhatsApp here, but when I open it, is it the one that says counseling modalities too?
Yes, that's the one.
And then there it says SACAP. There's a logo for SACAP, the South African College
Yes,
of Applied Psychology.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's
Oh,
the
this is the
one.
one.
Exactly, because what I did is I taught that class
Oh, okay.
back in, I think, 2019. So I gave you a sample of an assignment that has been written. And what I wanted you to do, because that assignment was written in APA. So the exercise was use the Harvard style handout that I gave to you guys to correct or to adjust the references to Harvard because they have been written in APA in that assignment. So that was the activity. And the reason why, because now we are getting to why that exercise was a good exercise, not just to get you guys to do it, but it's because 20% of your test actually revolves around referencing using the Harvard style. So my hope was when you guys go through that assignment and you are correcting all of the references that are there, and they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they give you 7 chances of learning and practicing how the Harvard style needs to look like. So in the test that you guys are going to write in class on Saturday, 20% is going to be devoted to referencing using the Harvard style. And how the exam is going, how that test is going to be set up is what I've asked you to do in this activity that I've given you guys. That's exactly what you are going to be required to do in the test. So it's a good practice because it's easier than sitting with the Harvard document and cramming. How do I reference a book that has editors, and how do I reference, say, for example, a journal? So in order for you not to sit and crane the Harvard document, it's easier for you to actually practice. So 20%, and that is 1/5 of the entire test, is going to be around whether or not you can reference using the Harvard style. So it's good practice for you to actually do this. And after you've done it, even though you guys are going to be writing a test, I'm going to give you all feedback on what you would have done right and what you would have done wrong on that assignment. Is this making sense to you guys? Are we together? All right, I'll take.
Yes, Mr.
Sorry.
Yes,
Okay,
Mr.
now.
No, we follow, but I want to ask a question here.
Yes.
So this like assignment, it is not to be submitted for marks or anything like that. It's just a practice for us for the test. Or must you also submit the assignment?
So you are going to submit it, but it's not for marks. So why you're submitting it is so that I can see where you are falling short, and then I give you feedback on that. So it is mostly practice. But if I just say it's purely practice, go do it on your own, and then I don't make a follow-up and see how you have done, I feel like I wouldn't have given you my best. So I need to just see how you were able to do it, but it's not for marks here. So say, for example, you don't manage to get round to doing it, you don't get penalized. So there is no penalty, you don't get any credit for doing it. but this helps you practice for the test that is there on Saturday, as well as every other assignment that you are going to write from here on out in any of the other modules that you're going to be doing, because it's the same referencing format for all assignments that you are ever going to do here with us at Mukanya.
Okay. So when are we expected to submit the assignment?
On Saturday.
Or on Saturday?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's just to get us to practice how to do it well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to give you guys the sections that you need to focus on, and I will try to narrow down as much as I can without necessarily giving you guys the questions. So the assignment is a 2-hour assignment, meaning that our entire session from 8:30 to from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, we are going to be writing this test. And it is going to be marked out of 100. And it has 6 questions that have subsections within it, sub-questions within it. But these 6 sections, 6 questions also translate to 6 questions. So question 1 is going to be general. It's not necessarily general knowledge, but it's all of the things that we have spoken about. So when we went to the library and I was showing you stuff in the library, the things that we were seeing and talking about there are what is going to be asked of you. So generally, broadly speaking, when we talk about the usage of library or the procurement of sources, what do we use, where do we get them, that kind of a thing. So that's what the first question is all about, which is why I'm saying it's more of a general question, because I can't really say we have a specific section for it, but it is just touching on a number of things. All right. And then from there, we are going into question 2, which is going to be focusing on types of research. So you need to go into our study guide as well as use the raw guide to actually look at the types of research that are there. So you need to know the types of research. What do they do? How are they done? The advantages and the disadvantages. So that's what you're going to be looking at. And then we go to the third question, which is on the section on plagiarism. So you need to know, starting from what plagiarism is, to how exactly would you avoid plagiarism. What are the ways of avoiding plagiarism? Now, if you remember, we did speak about this quite a lot. And as I'm thinking about it right now, I'm even remembering we looked at how do we paraphrase, because remember we said more often than not, when we plagiarize, it's because we have failed to represent information well. So the question is, how do we represent that information well in a way that avoids plagiarism? So these are the things that we are looking at. Then we also have the fourth question or section that deals with the steps of research. Now, if you think back, we said that there were basically 5 steps within the research cycle, in fact, within the research process. And then I ultimately showed you how from the last thing where we are looking at the conclusions and recommendations, we can ultimately move back into asking questions, which is the first step. So you need to know the steps of research, and you need to understand, what exactly is happening at each and every stage. All right. And that from there, it literally is a continuation into section 5 or question 5 that looks now at the qualities of research. What makes good research? What makes bad research? What are the characteristics of research? What are the pros and cons of using one particular type of research over the other? And in order for you to grasp that, the utility or the usefulness of one research method over the other is always going to be determined by the context. So where you are conducting the research, who you are talking to will determine the tools that you need to use in that research. So if you have forgotten some of these things, you can always go back and rewatch our recordings, because that's where we were. I was literally, giving you guys all of that information. And then last but not least, we are going to be looking at referencing. And 20% of the entire exam is going to be found within the questions that require you to reference, which is why I was saying that activity that I gave you is the best exercise for you to figure out how to do your referencing. But in addition to just referencing, you need to understand the different types of reference materials that we have. But most importantly, you need to understand how each of those reference materials can be referenced using the Harvard style. Or put differently, when, for example, we talk about a journal, what needs to be italicized? When we talk about a book chapter, what needs to be italicized? Or when we talk about a book, what needs to be italicized? What about what do we do with a book that has multiple authors? How do we put them down according to the Harvard referencing style? So you really need to know the Harvard referencing style, and the best way to know is by practicing it. So you need to put it into practice. It's the best way, because there's nothing more difficult than sitting down with that Harvard guide and then, trying to claim what is there. So let me just show you a little something here. All right, so I'm hoping you guys are able to see my screen that I am sharing with you. So these things here, this table, you need to know this table. Look at the formula. You need to understand the formula or the format. And the questions are going to be around the bibliography examples that are here. So this is what you need to do. So, I mean, you see how difficult it would be to say, okay, for ebook, you sit down and you crane surname first, there's a comma, there's initials, there's a full stop, then in brackets, public. It's always easier for you to do these things by practicing them. So that makes it a little easier. All right. Is this making sense to you guys? Are we together? All right. Okay, so I'm seeing a question in the chat. How can I find the previous recordings? All right, so let me do this. So all of our recordings, we are putting them on YouTube. So let me give you the link. Let me give you the link. One person there. This is the person I'm looking for. All right. All right. So when you click on that link, it's going to take you to one of the videos. All you need to do is, if you subscribe to that channel, that is our channel, is a Mukanyo learning site where we are putting the videos to the work that we have done. So just click on that link. It takes you to YouTube, and you can then find videos that we have uploaded there. You will find them. All right. Right. So, in terms of the sections for the test that you guys are going to write, the first one we said it's just general. We are looking at the library. How do we access our sources? That is what you need to read around. The second one, we need to look at the types of research that are there. What are the characteristics of these what are the characteristics of these researches? And then number 3, we're looking at plagiarism. What exactly is it? How do we avoid it? And then the research steps, what is happening in each step of the research steps, and then research in general, what makes for good research, what makes for bad research, what are the main characteristics of research, et cetera, and then referencing. You need to know about referencing. And so that is what the test is going to be about. All right. Let me try and so we have a person who is struggling to enter into this session. So let me let me just, guys, I'm really sorry. Could you give me a second? I just need to pause a little bit so that I call these guys and we find out what is happening. All right. Our recording was, it was not recording, but not a problem. Not a problem at all. I can always go over some of these things so that all the guys who are not here, and even yourselves, if you want it, you can still get it. All right. Hmm. So we are saying if we are engaged in any form of communication, oh, right. So if we're engaged in any form of communication, it is always going to be goal-directed, goal-oriented, because we are trying to accomplish something through the communication that we are having. Now, the best way of communicating a particular idea is, first of all, to break down that idea into chunks. So, for example, for those of you who can see the bookshelf behind me, imagine that bookshelf is a picture, and that picture is what we would call a complex picture. And it is considered a complex picture because there are a lot of things that are there that one can focus on. So because it is a picture that has a lot of things on it, how best can you, for example, draw that picture or paint that picture? Or how can you describe that picture to someone? And how can you describe it in such detail that the other person can actually see what you're talking about? So the idea is, whenever we talk about communication, or whenever we talk about assignments, the idea is we have to figure out a way of breaking down the complex pictures or the complex ideas that we have into small, manageable chunks so that the other person can get what we're saying. So the way we do it in communication is we break it down firstly into sections. So for example, I can say the bookshelf behind me has 3 rows, and it has 4 rows and 3 columns. All right. And so in that person's mind, they can immediately begin to see, okay, so there are compartments to this shelf. So it's not just one big thing. And then on all of those shelves, there are different books with different colors and so on and so forth. But if you try to really get to the heart of what I've just said, I have isolated, firstly, the wooden frame of the shelf. Because when I say that my bookshelf is comprised of, 4 rows and 3 columns, I haven't yet spoken about the books. I have only singled out a particular element within the bookshelf. All right. And then from there, I now talk about the books, but I can even go to the extent of numbering from right to left, numbering the number of shelves. So the top right shelf right behind me has books that have blue and white, right? They have blue at the bottom, white at the top. And I can specify that even further by telling you the number of books that are on that specific shelf. So what does this have to do with anything? Think of this bookshelf as an assignment. And within that assignment, there are going to be constituent parts. Those constituent parts can exist as different sections. So for instance, if we look at the assignment here that I am, scrolling up and down on, we have various sections, right, within this assignment. So this part that I have highlighted here, that is a section that contains its own subheading. And within these sections, we can also have multiple paragraphs, right, that are explaining ideas that are contained within that subheading. So we can have anywhere from 1 paragraph in one section, which is what we have here. It's possible. Or, for example, in this part over here, where we have that subheading, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs that are under that particular section. So the same thing applies with my bookshelf. On my bookshelf, we have 3 columns, right? That first one there with the books that are blue and white. We also have this middle column over here, and we also have that column right on that other side, right? And then from there, we have these rows. So these rows that we have 4 rows that are going from top to bottom. So consider each row or each column as a subheading. And within that row or column, we have further subdivisions. So this particular assignment or this particular bookshelf that I have, if we are considering it as an assignment, you can write that assignment such that you have 3 main sections or 4 main sections. And that could be the 3 rows or the 4, that could be the 3 columns or the 4 rows. All right. And so each contains a particular set of ideas, but the reason why I am using the example of a bookshelf is so that you understand that just because you have broken down the assignment into particular parts does not necessarily mean that you have 4 different assignments. No. You have broken down this bookshelf either into the 4 rows or the 3 columns because that is the easiest way of getting someone to understand what you are talking about. So these are still 3 or 4 different sections of a whole thing. before I keep going, are we still together, guys? Is this making sense to you?
Yes,
I think so.
All right. So please do not hesitate to flag me down and say, Walter, here we can't quite understand. Can you help us to further understand this section? Right. So in our example, we said either the rows or the columns can be your different sections. And within those sections, right? So for example, we are looking at this section on the assignment where it is talking about the strengths and weaknesses of REBT with nyctophobia. So this is the main heading that we have here. And under that heading, we have strengths, because this person is looking at the strengths and weaknesses. They are going to, and then they give us the strengths over there. Then they move on to the next section or subsection, and they focus on the weaknesses. All right. So one way of understanding this is to say, on our bookshelf, we can even go down or narrow we can even narrow what is happening on each row or on each column, because each column, as we are seeing there, contains 3 rows as well. But on each row within the specific column, that is where we find books. So consider the bookshelf, the entire bookshelf, as an assignment. Each row or each column is going to be a section within the assignment. And each individual shelf, each individual component there is going to be a paragraph. But each and every paragraph translates or is comprised of sentences. And each and every sentence on our bookshelf will be each and every individual book. And each and every individual book within it are the words that come up to form that book. So what I'm trying to do is to show you how we get from the big assignment down to sections, down to subsections, down to paragraphs, down to sentences, and down to words. So when we consider an assignment, it is merely, and I'm going to give you a technical term, or please don't mind the change in color in things. I have a setting where my computer changes its color based on the time of day. So according to it, the sun is set, and so things now turn black. But in any case, the idea is the big word that I was going to give you, assemblage. Assemblage is just from the word assembly, or to assemble. You assemble many different things in order for them to form one big thing. So the things that we assemble within an assignment are words. But I want you to understand that the reason I'm emphasizing moving from the assignment to the words and not necessarily from the words to the assignment is because there's a particular way of thinking when you are writing your assignment. And that way of thinking is that other big word that we spoke about earlier, telos, T-E-L-O-S. There has to be a goal. So if my goal is to talk about, all right, and we're going into our assignment. If our goal is to to discuss the impact of rational emotive behavior therapy and its successes in the South African context as it relates to nyctophobia. So our aim is to show the relevance or the utility of relational emotive behavior therapy to nyctophobia. So that's what we want to do. And so I want you to imagine yourself in your mind's eye. What exactly do I want these people to know? All right. And after you've imagined in your mind's eye the idea that you want people to know, then you need to ask yourself, how best can I deliver that idea? Because remember, we said that idea is a complex idea. So we need to break it down. We break it down into different sections. And in this example, this student said, first of all, I'm going to talk about what REBT is and how it can impact nyctophobia. And in saying that, he is also going to tell us what nyctophobia is. So that is one section. The second section is looking now at REBT in and of itself. And that is a fancy way of saying, when we think of that REBT, what exactly are we talking about? What, excuse me, what is this thing? So that is another section. So we've broken down our main idea of showing the utility or the usefulness of REBT applied to nyctophobia. And so what we have done is we have said, firstly, what is REBT? All right. How can it impact nyctophobia? But what is REBT? What is nyctophobia? But then we go into the nitty-gritties, into the heart of REBT as a modality. And then from there, we consider the strengths and weaknesses of applying REBT to nyctophobia. So we look at the strengths on their own, we look at the weaknesses on their own. And now we are asking the question, so how is REBT relevant within the South African context? So that is yet another further breakdown. So from there, now that we have our sections, where in the first section, we are just broadly asking the question, what is REBT? What is nyctophobia? We now go into that specific section and we try to populate. And that word populate is just a fancy way of saying, now we write the assignment. Now we put in the ideas. And those ideas are in themselves sentences and paragraphs and words. So the question becomes, how are we putting this across? And that is what we are going to be going into now. So the way that our study guide does it is it first of all looks at words themselves, how they're broken down. It starts off by looking at our phonetic awareness, and that is literally looking at how words are built. And within the English language, it has particular rules, and those rules govern how words are put together, but I'm not going to go that far with you guys, because I'm going to assume that you are pretty conversant in how words work within the English language. But what I will do is to start us off with sentences. Now, I'm not also going to really hammer home on how sentences are constructed, where we are saying there has to be a subject and there has to be a predicate, and what is a subject, what is a... I might say one or two things there, but what I broadly want you to understand is that a sentence is a string of words that capture an idea. So it is an assemblage. Remember, I gave you that big word. It is a sentence can be understood as an assemblage of words that are conveying an idea. So in my definition of sentence, regardless of the words I choose, regardless of whether I call it an assemblage, whether I call it an association, whether I call it a collective of words, but the qualifier, the most important qualifier of what a sentence is something that needs to convey an idea. So we need that at the back of our minds, precisely because when you write your assignment, you need to make sure that every single sentence is conveying an idea. Because the way you convey your ideas speaks to your fluency. And the more fluent you are, the better you are heard. And what I mean by the better that you are heard is when I, the marker, am reading your assignment, I need to get exactly what you are putting across. Let me take it a step back just a little, and then I'll come back. You need to remember that with all forms of communication, and this is something that I've said before, I'm reiterating for emphasis, or I am restating for emphasis, or I am repeating myself to emphasize that all forms of communication are done, in fact, in order for there to be effective communication. An idea needs to have been conveyed from your side to my side. Or another way of looking at it is, in any form of communicative encounter, I'm going to say it in English this time, whenever people communicate, or if you want to sound smart, in any instance of a communicative encounter, the ideas that a sender has need to be understood by the receiver of that idea. So, for example, right now, I am sending these words and ideas to you guys. So I am the sender, you are the receiver, because you are the one who is receiving the information that I have. So within this communicative encounter, or within this conversation, or within this dialogue between you and I, in order for that conversation to be characterized as effective communication, the ideas that I am sending to you, you need to receive them and understand them the way that I intended for you to understand them. If that happens, then we can say there was effective communication. The same thing applies to an assignment. When you are writing your assignment, you are the sender of information, and I am the receiver. In order for you to get good marks, the way you intended your ideas to be understood needs to be the way that I will understand your ideas. Let me break it down further or put it in another way. Whenever you are talking to someone, you are putting across your ideas, and our hope is that the person listening hears exactly what we are saying. Does that make sense? Before we move on, are we still together? Are we getting it?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan. So, since we are saying in any communicative encounter or in any conversation, or, for example, in any assignment, you need to make sure that the image that you are seeing in your mind's eye is the same image that I will be able to see when I read that idea on your assignment. So you now need to find ways of effectively conveying your ideas. And that leads us to the sentences that we use. So each sentence has to convey an idea. And in more so when you are writing an assignment, each sentence has to convey a single idea. So you can't have multiple ideas in a single sentence. It becomes difficult for the person who is reading to actually see what you are writing or to see what you mean. Because remember, when I read your assignment, I'm reading your thoughts. I'm reading your ideas. And those ideas need to make sense. We make them make sense by making sure that each sentence that we are putting down contains one idea, such that when I read that sentence, I get an understanding of what you're saying before I move on to the next idea. So when we talk about sentences, right? So in the guide, they talk about a subject and a predicate. These might be way too fancy for you, but these are things that we also need to know. And the reason why I am going to focus on these a little bit more is because for those that have done biblical languages, right? Your Hebrew or Greek, the main thing that is always focused on is what exactly is the subject and what is the predicate. So subject is the main idea or the main person or the main object within a particular sentence. So, for example, the sky is blue. The subject is the thing that we are talking about within the sentence. So within that sentence, the main thing is not the blueness, but it is the sky. So the sky becomes the subject, right, in that sentence. And a predicate is something that is attached to a subject. Put differently, or in English, a predicate explains a subject. So when we say the sky is blue, the blueness of the sky is the predicate, and the sky itself is the subject. So when I give you a sentence that contains an object and a predicate, that is what we call a complete sentence. But if you say, for example, the sky, what about the sky? That is an incomplete assignment, or it's an incomplete sentence because it is an incomplete idea. Or if we say is blue, what is blue? We don't know what you are talking about. So that too is an incomplete sentence because it is an incomplete idea. So when you write your sentences, we constantly need to understand the what or the who that we are referring to. So that is the subject, or in other words, it can be referred to as the object of our conversation. So for instance, and this is an example that requires you to stretch your thinking, but the main subject of this particular activity, or of this particular session, is focusing on how to write assignments. All right, so that is our subject. And now everything that comes after that are predicates that help you to understand the subject. So if the subject is how to write an assignment, all of our predicates are going to be focused on what it means, what do we need to do, what are the characteristics of an assignment, or what are the characteristics of a good assignment. All of those become the predicates, because these are things that are describing, these are things that are explaining, or if you want more technical words, these are ideas that are elucidating or clarifying how it is we can come up with the good assignment. So those are predicates. Are we together so far? Before we take together, we are good. All right. I like that. I like that we are good. So if we say each and every sentence has to convey an idea, we need to understand how the main idea is broken down into smaller ideas, because it's almost like your 7-color meal, right? You're looking at it on a plate on Sunday afternoon after church. You get home and the wife has made this beautiful meal. You don't eat it by holding the plate, opening your mouth, and just throw the entire thing in. You need bite-sized portions. So you will either take your hands, you wash your hands, or you take a fork and knife And then you take bite-sized meals or bite-sized portions. That's how you eat it. And that is also how you write an assignment. The same way you eat your food, small pieces at a time. So the small pieces that we are focusing on are the sentences. Now, let us go to the introduction, for example. So what is this person saying? For the essay to follow, I plan to look at the fascinating phobia that is nyctophobia. Right. So what do you guys think is the subject of this assignment or of that sentence there? What are we looking at? What idea do you think is being conveyed by that sentence? What is that sentence telling us? Anyone, guys? Just by reading that sentence, for the essay to follow, I plan to look at the fascinating phobia that is nyctophobia. What is this person saying? What do you think is the main thing that this person is looking at in that sentence?
I think his plan here is for us to see what is fascinating between what is this phobia that is
Yes,
fascinating
nyctophobia.
phobia. He's trying to explain nyctophobia.
Exactly. You are right. So this right here is an example of a complete sentence, because when we read it, it is telling us something. And the thing that it is telling us is, and this is another technical term, is intelligible. Not intelligent, intelligible. Intelligible is a word that literally means can we understand what you are saying? So if you say something that people can't understand, you have said something that is not intelligible. Not that it's not intelligent, it's not intelligible. So intelligible just means understandable. So that sentence is considered a complete sentence because we can understand the idea that that person is putting forward. Now, we then go on to the second sentence where something else is being said. And then we have a third sentence and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth. And all of those sentences come together to form a paragraph. The intelligibility or the understandability of a paragraph is determined or is contingent upon or is based on the intelligibility of the sentences that form that paragraph. So in this paragraph, and I'm going to read it out loud to you guys. So this is what he is saying in the introduction. For the essay to follow, I plan to look at the fascinating phobia that is nyctophobia. More specifically, how rational emotive behavior therapy, or REBT, can positively impact and even treat the fear of the dark. Firstly, I will share some light on nyctophobia and REBT as well as why I would deal with the phobia, why it would deal with the phobia most effectively. In the next section of the essay, I will briefly explore rational emotive behavior therapy by covering key contributors, the chief concepts, and the goals to be achieved throughout the therapeutic journey. After exploring both the phobia and the therapy I have chosen, I will show both assets and flaws when considering its application in the treatment of nyctophobia. Before concluding, I will delve into REBT's application in the South African setting to tie the essay together. When you read this introduction, it gives you a very clear image of what is to come within the essay, and it does that precisely because each of the sentences that are used to come up with this introductory paragraph is conveying a particular idea in an intelligible manner. So the point I'm trying to make is that in order for your paragraph to be understandable, your sentences need to be understandable. And in order for your sentences to be understandable, they need to convey an idea, and a single idea. And if you want to convey another idea, you move on to excuse me, to write your second sentence and your third sentence, so that each sentence contains only one idea. Are we still together?
Yes, we are together, Doc.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. So, when we speak about a sentence, we said it needs to have a subject and it needs to have a predicate. But when we combine our sentences together to form a paragraph, we also need to understand that each and every sentence within that paragraph has a part to play. So, and I know most of us love soccer. And whenever you think back to that one game that your favorite team played, even if they lost, that one game that you always think about and say, that's my team. It is because every player who was on the field did exactly what they were supposed to do. And it all came together, and they were dribbling and they were passing. And maybe they scored or maybe they didn't. But the very fact that in that instance, they were working like a well-oiled machine, they were doing what they were supposed to. That is what a proper paragraph looks like. Each sentence within the paragraph is like a player on the pitch. So when the ref gives off that first whistle and the first person takes the ball, they pass it on to the next person. And so that is what is happening from sentence to sentence within the paragraph. So our first paragraph holds the ball, and it takes that ball to another to another player, or in this instance, we have one idea that is contained in the first sentence, and it is pushed onto or passed to the second sentence, and that second sentence does something with that idea, and it passes it to the next sentence that also dribbles around, shows that it knows what it is doing, and it passes the ball further until we give that ball or that idea to the striker within the passage or within the paragraph. And that is the last sentence, the concluding sentence that rounds everything up, that ties everything together by giving a big shot on target and probably scores with that particular paragraph. So that is what we are talking about when we consider paragraphs. A paragraph is a collection of sentences. But remember, we said every single sentence needs to contain an idea. So ultimately, a paragraph is also a collection of ideas. And those ideas need to be doing something. So that word that we started off with, telos, your goal or your aim or your objective, each and every paragraph needs to have an objective. And the objective is always the thing that starts. So the first sentence of any paragraph needs to be and the technical term of it is a topic sentence. So a topic sentence is the sentence that conveys the telos or the aim or the objective of the paragraph. So when we look at this introduction that we have, for the essay to follow, I plan to look at the fascinating phobia that is nyctophobia. So now already we know that in this instance, what we are going to be looking at is nyctophobia. But what about nyctophobia are we going to be looking at? Enter the second sentence. More specifically, how rational emotive behavior therapy as well as, so there's something happening or someone is annotating or putting notes onto the page. Sorry, that distracted me a little bit, but we'll regain our momentum. So our topic sentence in that introduction is telling us the telos, the purpose of the assignment. And that telos or purpose is to look at nyctophobia. But what about nyctophobia are we looking at? Enter the second sentence. So the first sentence has passed the idea to the second sentence. So the first sentence has merely introduced what we are going to be looking at in this particular paragraph. And it passes off to the second sentence, and that second sentence is now modifying, or it is known as a modifier, because it is giving us extra information. It is explaining what that initial sentence was trying to say. So more specifically, we are looking at how rational emotive behavior therapy, or RPBT, can positively impact and even treat the fear of the dark. So that fear of the dark, that is what nyctophobia is. So what the first sentence has done is to set the stage. This is what is going to happen. The second sentence comes in and says, we are specifically going to look at this. All right. The third sentence is now trying to provide us a structure of how we are going to achieve the things that have been set up by the first and the second sentence. So first sentence, topic sentence, tells us what we are going to do. Second sentence is modifying, is a modifier, is giving us an explanation of what we are going to do. So more specifically, we are going to look at how REBT as a therapeutic modality can positively impact or treat the fear of the dark. Enter the third sentence. How are we going to do this? We are now going to communicate the idea of how we structure the way we are going to talk about this. So firstly, I will share some light on nyctophobia and REBT. And that is, by sharing light, it is another way of saying, I'm going to explain to you what nyctophobia is and what REBT is. And if you want to see something that is quite fascinating, the way that this person is giving a flow to their assignment and explaining all of these things is also giving us an image of what is happening in their table of contents, where we have the introduction, and then they're going to shed light on what REBT is and how it can impact on that. So just by looking at what is happening within this introduction, we are already seeing how this makes sense in terms of the table of contents. So that ability for ideas to flow and carry within that flow the intelligibility that we are looking for in this assignment, that concept is called concordial agreement. I know it is yet another technical term, but these are the terms that come as part of the territory. So concordial agreement literally means that there is a flow that we can see from one idea to the next. So we don't have a jumble of ideas. So when there is concordance, there is agreement. And the only way for there to be agreement is if your players are passing to each other. And what we are looking for is almost a one touch, because we are saying there has to be one idea in every sentence. So this player passes to that player, who passes to that player. But within that pass, what they are doing while they have the ball, they have a singular objective. And that singular objective is the idea that is contained within the sentence. So when we read this entire introduction or this entire paragraph, it therefore makes sense to us to say, oh, so that is what we are trying to accomplish. And so we move on to the next sentence. All right. And as we move on to the next, not sentence, as we move on to the next section, we repeat the exact same idea. We have within our section or subsection a main idea, because there has to, each and every section has to accomplish something. So there are no loose sentences And there are also no loose paragraphs that are just freebies that you just put there, that are not communicating anything. Because remember, in all of your assignments, you are going to be given a word count or a word limit. So write this assignment in 1,500 words or in 250 words. So if you have been given a word limit, you then need to make sure that all of your players will do everything in their power to win the game in the 90 minutes that they are given. So your word count is the 90 minutes, right? So whatever it is that your players are going to be doing from the starting whistle to the finishing whistle, it needs to be done within a specific number of words, meaning that we can't have a player dribbling from one goalpost to the other goalpost and going back again. It makes no sense because it is not doing anything for us. You are actually wasting time. And we also know the concept of time wasting, especially in a soccer match when a team probably has won by, say, for example, 3-0. The team that has 3 is going to time waste until, you know, the end of the whistle. But this other team that is trailing behind, they will still want to do something. So we are saying when it comes to an assignment, we don't need time wasting. So you don't write a sentence or you don't put a sentence within a paragraph, or you don't put a paragraph within a section, or you don't put a section within an assignment that is not accomplishing a particular goal. So each sentence needs to have a telos, T-E-L-O-S, needs to have an objective. Each, paragraph needs to have an objective. And each section, or rather, each subsection needs to have a telos. Each section needs to have a telos. And each assignment needs to have an objective or a telos. And all of that comes from your ability to break down the big image that you have in your mind, the complex image that you have in your mind, breaking it down into various sections. And then you break those sections into subsections. And you break those subsections into paragraphs. You break those paragraphs into sentences, each sentence conveying a particular idea, so that the sum total of the ideas within a given paragraph manage to accomplish something towards the assignment. Are we still together, guys?
Yes, Doc, we are together. I just wanted to ask a question.
Yes.
So, Doc, I've seen it. If we can go back a little bit to the introductory part.
All right. Yes.
In sentence number 2, that says, more specifically, how rational emotive behavior therapy, or REBT, can positively impact. I'm just going to stop it there.
All right.
To my understanding, REBT is an abbreviation of rational emotive behavior therapy, right?
Yes.
So in this statement number 2, if let's say I am doing it and I've said rational emotive behavior therapy, which means I've already said REBT, if I put that in bracket in that same statement, is it going to make sense?
It is, right. So the question that you are asking is, can we use and how can we use abbreviations? So you can use, this is the way that you use abbreviations. In the first instance, write out the thing that you want to talk about in full. And then you can put your brackets and then you put REBT. So rather than saying O REBT, you can eliminate the O and then you put the REBT in brackets. It is still the exact same thing.
Thank you. Now,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks so much for helping me out there. If now we move to the second section where we were, I just moved down, then I will point it out now. Yes, so I assume that is the second paragraph. At the end of second paragraph, there is a subtopic. I will call it a subtopic. It says REBT, therapy as a modality. So I'm looking at that abbreviation again as rational emotive behavior therapy, then the therapy again as a modality. Is it all right as it is? Because
No.
REBT, there is a therapy inside that statement already, and then there is a therapy on its own again as a modality. Is it okay?
No, it is not. So
Okay.
it should just then be REBT is a modality.
Okay.
That is the correct thing now.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Sure thing. All right. Questions, guys, before I take it forward again. Are we still together? Okay, I'm going to go person to person. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but I just want to make sure, even if you're saying yes, Doc, I get it. It's still okay. Let's start with Dan. Are you still okay, Dan?
Yes, no, I'm still covered. I'm
All
still
right.
covered. If
All
I
right.
have something on my hand.
All right, awesome. And then Mongezi, are we still good? Are we still together? Are we still understanding what is going on?
Doc, yes, I am following.
All right, awesome. Then we have Zoom user. I'm not too sure, maybe this is our administrative team, but if you are listening, please just help us out there to see if it is making sense. So the person who's written as Zoom user.
I think it's me. Yes, I'm still in power.
You're still all right. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So the LLC, that is our admin. Prince, are we still together? Prince, if you can hear us. I know that most of you guys where you are, network is a challenge. But even if you can't speak, if you can even just put a thumbs up, just so that we know that you haven't been left behind, because we don't want anyone left behind. All right, so maybe network challenges there. Our administrator LLC there, you can just give us a thumbs up if you have been following. We just need to. Awesome, thank you. Prince, you've unmuted yourself. Are we together? Are we understanding? All right, yeah, that could be network challenges there. All right, but I'm hoping we are all together here. All right, so we said each paragraph has a topic sentence, and that topic sentence is telling us the main idea of that particular paragraph. Or if we want to be technical, show these family members of ours and even one or two people from church that we are really at school. The topic sentence conveys the telos of the paragraph. So the topic sentence is containing the telos, the objective, the main objective. And all the other sentences within, they are also acting as supporting staff. So these are the guys that are going to be doing the heavy lifting. So within the body of the paragraph, all of the explanations are done by all of those other sentences. And then right at the very end of that particular paragraph, we have a concluding statement. Yes, Prince, you have your hand up. Prince, do you want to ask a question or say something? You are on mute. You had successfully put yourself off mute, but then you put it back on. So right now, yes, now you can talk. You're off mute.
Can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Okay. No, man, I wanted to say, hey, from my side, today I'm battling. You can see I'm online, offline due to network challenges.
I see.
So most of the things I didn't grab them, I must be honest.
Okay.
Because of it's the load shedding this side, the load shedding.
Oh, I see. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. All right. No, not a problem. So at least we have been recording, so you will be able to watch and follow what we have been talking about. And then from there, if you still have more challenges, we can always talk on Saturday. But that will be after your test, because there is a test on Saturday. And we are going to see how we can get the guys that are online to also write that test. So I think for the online guys, we will be able to send the electronic version of the test to you, but you will also have to write it within the 2-hour period as class is running, and then you can submit that immediately after. But that would be for Saturday. All right. So we said each paragraph is comprised of a topic sentence, then the explanatory sentences, and then we have a concluding statement that comes at the bottom or at the end of every paragraph. Now, if you think about it, essentially we are saying that each and every paragraph has 3 sections within it. We have the introduction, we have the body, and we have the conclusion. Because the introduction is the topic sentence. The topic sentence contains our telos. It contains the main idea that we're trying to convey within that paragraph. And so that first introductory sentence that contains the telos, or that contains our objective or our ultimate goal, that sentence will then pass on to the second sentence that now does the heavy lifting, as well as the third, fourth, fifth sentence, seventh sentence, and then you have your concluding sentence that is saying, in light of everything that we've just said, this is what we're trying to put across. So you will notice immediately that even your assignment itself, the actual essay, is also going to have three main sections: your introduction, your body, and your conclusion. Your introduction is going to be a paragraph. Your conclusion is going to be a paragraph, but your body is going to be comprised of sections, subsections, and paragraphs. But it is not always the case that for every single assignment you have multiple different sections within it. At times, you have only one section that is comprised of 8 or 9 different paragraphs, and then your conclusion. So, how? Oh, no. That other word might scare people off. But anyway, we are learning. So I'm going to start off by the simple English, and then I'll give you the technical term, and then we'll come back to the simple English again. So how your assignment is actually going to be written is going to be determined by the question you are answering. Now I'm giving you that English once again. The idiosyncratic nature of the assignment will be determined by the question. The word idiosyncratic literally means how you do things. So we can have a formula where we say we have the introduction, we have the body and the conclusion, but your own idiosyncrasies is literally how you choose to actually write that thing. So how you actually write that thing is determined by what the question is asking or the question that you are answering. Because there are some questions that require you to have multiple sections, but there are also other questions that would require you to only have one section. So the body can have multiple sections and subsections, or it can either be one big section. So whether it is one or multiple, that is what is called idiosyncrasy. Because within the idiosyncratic way of doing things, we are looking at how you actually have done the thing, regardless of what the theory says. I'll give you another example for you to just understand this word idiosyncrasy. And I've given this example before in class. Here in South Africa, we have traffic lights, or some people call them robots, all right? Not to be confused with robot peppers, the red, yellow, and the green peppers, you know, for cooking. But the traffic light has also red, that means stop, green, that means go, and yellow or amber, that means proceed with caution. But our idiosyncratic way of using the robot, when it turns yellow or orange or amber, we punch it. We punch the car. We dip our foot into the tank so that we go faster. So now it almost seems as if red for stop, green for go, and yellow for go faster. So that yellow for go faster is our idiosyncrasy. That is how we choose to do it, regardless of how it is supposed to be done. So the formula is stop, go, proceed with caution. Our idiosyncrasy is to say stop, go, and go faster. So within the formula of your essay, we have a body, we have an introduction, and we have the conclusion. But how many sections we have in the body and how many subsections we have in the body, that is idiosyncratic to the question. What is the question asking of us? And how do we put that across? All right. So from my side, I am done for now because I don't want to overload you with information, because I know I have given you a lot of information. I have also given you a lot of new words. Some of you might even have your own diary of saying, yeah, you see, these are the words that Walter tortures us with. And maybe you write the word and you write the meaning. But the reason why I do that is because here you see, from vocabulary to sentences to paragraphs to essays, in order for you to produce great academic essays, you need to start off with great vocabulary. And how you build your vocabulary is through books, reading your books as you are preparing for your assignments, doing your research, as well as in class, where us as the lecturers are also introducing new concepts that you need. So I am not just torturing you guys with these big words, but I'm also providing you with a revamp to your vocabulary. Are there questions? So I'm done with all of this, so I'm going to stop sharing. And now I want to hear from you guys. How are you feeling? Where are you? How are you taking all of this?
I'm trying to digest everything that I've learned today, because I've met some of new words that I didn't know, especially idiosyncrasy. What is idio? Can you spell it for me so that I can maybe be able to pronounce it, maybe?
All right, sure thing. Let me write it down. Then I will, because it's a long word, I might forget while I'm in between. All right, so it is IDIOSYNCRASY.
ASY.
Exactly. So idiosyncrasy, it just means the specific or the particular way that you do something. So for example, in order for you to write, no, let me not write an assignment. Let me say, how do you cook pap? So in order for you to cook pap, you need the milli meal, you need water, you need a pot, you need a stove. So you need heat. So now that is what you need. And there is a formula for making the pap. But each and every one of us has our own idiosyncrasy when it comes to making that pap, which is the reason why maybe in my house, after the pap has been made, it is softer. But when it is made in your house, maybe it's a bit more stiff. And maybe when, and this is a joke, the guys that are working in the roads that are digging the trenches, when they make the pap, it's hard as rock, because they need energy. So how that pap is made, those are the idiosyncrasies that we are talking about. So we are saying there's a formula of how something can be done, but the specific way that you do it is your idiosyncrasy.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doc. I've learned something today.
You are most welcome. Right. Anybody else, guys? Let's talk. We have 2 minutes remaining. Questions? How are you feeling? Are you okay? Are we too fast? We need to slow down. Thoughts and feelings today.
For me, we are moving at the right pace. Just that we'll see it when it comes to practical on Saturday. So that will tell if we are really following.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So no, I completely hear you, and that is okay. So what I am going to do next is I already have downloaded the things that I'm going to give you guys. So when we look at section 6, we are going to be using this same assignment to now look at what needs to be in the introduction, what needs to be in the conclusion, and what needs to be in the paragraphs within the body of an essay. And we are going to use this same assignment that we have. But afterwards, we are going to move to different assignments. I'm going to give you 2 assignments, one that was written well and one that was written badly, so that we are able to compare, because at least it is these 2 people are writing the same assignment. So now we are going to be saying or asking ourselves, what makes the good assignment good and the bad assignment bad? So if you look at what will be happening or what has been happening since session 4 last week, session 5 today, section 6 next, the following week, and session 7, is we are saying when it comes to an assignment, there are basically 2 things to consider. First is the format. And within that format, this is where we are looking at the Harvard style. This is where we are looking at the referencing. This is where we are looking at the bibliography. This is where we are looking at how the in-text referencing has been done. Then there is the content of an assignment. And when we talk about the content, because we don't necessarily have specific assignments that we are going to be looking at, but I will try to speak to the other guys to see if they have assignments for you guys. We can use those as examples, but in this instance, I'm literally just going to use these assignments, and we will look at the structure of how we can convey the ideas that need to be in an assignment. So by the end of session 7, we need to say, when I'm writing an assignment, I now know how to reference, and I now know how to write my introduction. I now know how to write my conclusion. I now know how to write the paragraphs within my body of the essay. I now know referencing. So I now know how to put in text referencing and citations, and I also know how to do the reference list. So hopefully, by the time we are done doing study skills, we would have learned from other people's experiences what we need to do in order for us to produce a good quality assignment. So that's my hope. And I hope it's going to make sense to you guys. And the reason why I always give you these assignments is because I want you to go over it again. Because not only will I tell you which assignment has been done well, but I will tell you why it has been done well. So that even on your own, as you are going through it on your own, you are able to say, oh, okay, so Doc said this part is done well, that isn't. Let me refresh my mind. What exactly is it here? Ultimately, when you write your own assignments, you will then need to compare, because now you know what a good assignment looks like. you have to compare the good assignments that we looked at, the examples, and what you have actually written. Do you think the characteristics of a good assignment are found within your own assignment that you have written? So hopefully, that is what we are going to accomplish. All right. If there are no other questions, guys, we can call it a day.
Okay, thank you, Doc. See you on Saturday.
Definitely. Please remember, so for those that might have missed what we were saying in terms of what is going to be in your assignment, I'm going to say this. There are different sections there, right? I'm just going to give you one final rundown. The first section is a general section focusing on the library and how we access information. The second section focuses on the types of research. So you need to understand the types of research that are there and what each type of research focuses on, and then the different types of resources that we have. Then the third section, you're going to look at plagiarism. So you need to ask yourself, what exactly is plagiarism? What can I do to avoid plagiarism? And the fourth section focuses on the steps of research. So you need to understand all the 5 steps of research and what is happening in each step of the research. Then you need to ask yourself, what are the characteristics of a good research? What are the characteristics of a bad research? So when we talk about conducting research, what exactly are we talking about? Remember that conversation that we're having about data and what data is and what information is. Read all of those things. And then last but not least, you are going to be focusing on referencing. And I said the 20% of your entire test revolves around the exercise that I gave you guys to do. So that exercise where I gave you that assignment, where you had to use the Harvard-style document, the quick guide, to change the referencing in the body of the essay as well as in the reference list, which you also have to change to bibliography. That is going to be 20% of the entire test. So 1/5 of the entire test is going to revolve around your ability to actually reference using the Harvard style. All right, so that is what the test is going to be on. So go and read around, go and rewatch the videos if you can, but most importantly, please do that activity that I gave you, that exercise that I gave you. It is not for marks. You are not going to get marks, but it is just a good exercise for you to be able to practice the things that you are going to use for the rest of your academic career, as well as to prepare for the test on Saturday. All right. Awesome, guys. Have yourselves a very lovely, lovely evening, and I will see you on Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Have a blessed one too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.